So how to implement this dynamism of finding the right function at runtime? This is implemented by vtables, which serve as one level of indirection. So in computer science, many problems are solved by one layer of indirection, such as pointers. So here we have a base class C. In this base class C, it has two virtual functions, vf1 and vf2. When the compiler sees the keyword virtual, it generates a vtable for this class C. Because this class C has two virtual functions, vf1 and vf2, so this class C vtable has two entries. One points to the implementation of vf1 in class C, and another pointer points to the C implementation of vf2. Similarly, for class D, this class D inherits from class C publicly. And this class D has three virtual functions, vf1, vf2, and vfc. So its vtable has three entries. The first entry points to the D implementation of vf1, second entry points to the D implementation of vf2, and third entry points to the D implementation of vf3. Now let's take a look of how to find the right function to call at runtime, or say how the compiler generates the code. Let's take a look at this example. So here we have a class C pointer container, and this code we want to go through every element in this C pointer container and call vf1. Now, when a pointer in this container points to a class C object, then the class C implementation of vf1 is called. And when a pointer in this class C pointer container points to a class D object, then the D implementation of vf1 is called. So the compiler generates the code for C pointer container I, called as vf1. The code generated for this is invoke the function pointed by the first entry in C pointer container I's vtable. Now let's take a look at this, the first element. The first element, C pointer container 0, is pointed to a class C object. Then the first entry in this class C vtable points to the class C implementation of vf1. And now let's take a look at this C pointer container 1. The vtable, this pointer points to a class D object. So its vtable, here's as the first entry in this vtable points to the class D implementation of vf1. So the same code invoke the function pointed by the first entry in class C pointer container I's vtable. The same code at runtime, one invokes the C implementation of vf1 and another invokes the D implementation of vf1. And sometimes we have multiple inheritance. Suppose we have a class B with virtual function vfb and class C with virtual function vfc. So now we have a class D that inherits from both class C and class B. So this class D has its own implementation of vfb and vfc. Now let's take a look at these four code segments, and see how they work. In this example, this is a B pointer and point to a B object, and we call vfb on this B pointer. In this case, because vfb is a virtual function defined in class B, so the compiler fetches the first entry in this object's vtable, which points to the B implementation of vfb. Now, in this example, this is a B pointer points to a class D object, and we call vfb on this B pointer. Because vfb is a virtual function defined in B, So the compiler fetches the first entry in this object's vtable, this class D's vtable. The first entry in class D's vtable will point to the class D implementation of VFB. And here the vtable used is the one that corresponds to B. Remember, D has two vtables. One corresponds to B and another corresponds to class C. Now, what if we call VFC on this B pointer? Because class VFC is a function defined in class C, and it is not a function defined in class B. So when you call VFC in this B pointer, the compiler will give you an error. Although this B pointer points to a D object, and the D class does have VFC implementation, but you cannot call VFC on a B pointer. Now let's take a look at this case. This is a C pointer point to class D object, and we call VFC on this C pointer. That is fine, because VFC is a virtual function defined in class C. So the compiler fetches the first entry in this object's vtable, which is class D's vtable, that corresponds to C. Again, class D has two vtables. One corresponds to class B, and another corresponds to class C. And the first entry in class D's vtable that corresponds to C will point to the D implementation of VFC.